Welcome to the Mental Health Boot Camp podcast, where where woo, where four therapists, three Canadians, and one American serve you cutting-edge mental health knowledge. I am Dr. Ryan Howes from Pasadena, California.
And I'm Brooke Lewis from Vancouver, Canada.
And I'm Joanna Boyd from Vancouver, Canada.
And I'm Chris Boyd from Vancouver, Canada. And I'm Joanna's brother.
Oh, you are?
Woo.
Right on, right on. Well, welcome everybody. Here it's October. It's getting colder out there.
Yeah.
We in the States are starting to wear sweaters and things like hats. You guys in Canada are wearing something called a toque. Is that right?
You bet.
That is right.
What in the world is a toque?
I believe that you Americans call them beanies.
Beanies. Okay, when I think of beanie, I think of a little thing that goes on top of your head, and sometimes there's like a little thing and a propeller that spins around from the top. You know those things?
So if it's not a beanie, then what is it? Like a cap or a hat?
Like what do you put on when you go out in the snow or you go skiing?
Okay, you're talking about like a wool or cotton, like a knit, just a round thing that goes over your head. There's not like a bill or a brim on it, right? It just goes over the top of your head. Yeah, we'd call that a cap or a cap. I think that's what we call it.
That's it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe beanies tend to have a little different, connotation to them. So tell me about toques. Sometimes they have pom-poms, sometimes they don't. Is that right?
That is correct. Only the cool ones have pom-poms.
Okay.
Some can be very just like fit right kind of to your head, and some could be more slouchy. Some people like to wear some so it has extra material.
Okay. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys know cold weather better than we do, so I think you guys are the experts. We should all be calling them toques. That's it.
And Brooke makes them.
I sure do.
You do? Is this a plug? Do you have an Etsy store or something that you want to sell them?
I don't have an Etsy store, no. But I do crochet toques. Yeah. A lot of Canadian content here tonight. I'm also going to make a plug. Chris, what's on your t-shirt?
It is of Terry Fox.
That's Canadian content.
Who is Terry Fox?
Who is Terry Fox? Terry Fox is like a kind of a local hero up here in the Vancouver area. I would say Canada as well, I guess, right? And as a young man in his early 20s, he was diagnosed with cancer. And to raise awareness and funds, he decided to run across Canada. So he started off on the East Coast and made it through most of Ontario before he got too ill to carry on. But it was very inspirational. And he actually went to SFU, the university that Joanna, Brooke, and I did our undergrad at. So
Simon Fraser University, right?
Simon Fraser, yeah. So anyways, across our country, we have these Terry Fox runs to raise for cancer.
What? We lost you a
Cancer
little bit.
research and treatment.
Chris, you're a robot.
Yes, you're a robot tonight. Raising funds for cancer research.
Oh no.
Got it.
So, but one thing too with Terry Fox is that he actually had one leg amputated. So he actually ran across Canada, right? He had, with actually just,
one leg
and one prosthetic.
Oh my gosh.
So it was quite a slow, anyways. So there's, like Chris was saying, Terry Fox runs by all the local schools and money raised for cancer awareness.
He had cancer. He had a leg amputated because of that cancer. Yeah. And then ran across Canada. Wow.
A good portion of Canada. Not didn't make it the whole way, but
wow.
Yeah.
And also
or most of Canada. Most of Canada before he passed away.
How long ago was this?
In the 70s?
In the 70s?
Is that right? We're all Googling. We should know this
Was it
Canadian
just
history.
was it just the 40th? Was it just the 40th anniversary?
It,
I can't recall. But
It was in 1980. He was in 1980 when
40.
he, embarked on his East to West Coast Canada run.
Yeah.
Now
So
I've known
he's a
you guys
hero.
for a while, and I've heard a lot about Terry Fox. I've probably seen that T-shirt before, but that's the thing that gets to me is not only was he a hero, but 40. It's happened 40 years ago, and we're still talking about him. I mean, that's really incredible.
And he was only 22 when he passed away. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So there's a local school named after him and everything. So.
Oh, that's a bummer. Well, okay. Well, there we go. Here's
His legacy lives on. Yeah.
It does. And if I'm not mistaken, here in early October, you guys have a holiday coming up. We have one too, but you guys have a holiday coming up. What is that holiday?
Gobble Gobble Day.
It's Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving. It's this weekend.
This weekend.
Yes.
Like the 10th of October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second Monday of October.
Second Monday.
So the holiday is Monday, the 12th.
The 12th. Oh my gosh.
So
Joanna. Yes. So Joe, I think you should do your best turkey call right now.
we didn't hear that.
That's all I got.
Dial it back a little bit. Give it us one more time.
Okay, I just can't try to.
Oh God, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right.
I think that's probably gonna lose
some of it came through, but it was
So the high pitch comes through, and then the part it like fogs out.
Oh,
so good though. It's good.
That's really good. I'm always surprised because ours is third week in November, right? We're a long ways away. We're very much a lot of separation. But yours is also not quite as big a deal as ours, right?
That's right. Still good. Like it's all about the food.
A lot of families gather. You get lots of food for sure. But definitely it's a bigger holiday in the States. By far.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. When I was a kid, I think Christmas was my favorite. And as I've gotten older, I think Thanksgiving is now my favorite just because less consumerism, more just, family and eating a great meal and having a good time together. I just really enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, and some football too, right? You watch football all day.
Yeah, sure. Football, weather's great. It's usually a really nice time.
Cool.
Well, happy Thanksgiving from
Thank you.
America to Canada. She will return the favor at some point. And let's get to our ambush. Ambush is where one of us comes up with the topic and the rest of us have to kind of deal with it. We got to address this topic. So I don't know what the topic is. I think is it Chris who has the topic tonight?
It's me, and it's coming your way via text message.
Text message coming my way. I don't know what it is. Can we get a drum roll, please? Or a gobble, maybe? Perfect. Okay. Oh. All right. Speaking of Joe, here we go.
Okay.
What do you consider to be a bad habit? What can you do to change those bad habits? Habits, everybody. Habit time. Okay. I'm ready to tackle this one. Let's dive in.
Sure.
Okay, so we all have habits, right? Habits are routines, things that we do on a consistent, regular basis that sometimes they've just sort of worked their way into our regular system. Like get up in the morning, go to the bathroom, go take a shower, brush your teeth, whatever the things that you do on a consistent basis that sometimes are kind of mindless, that you just do automatically. A lot of those things are healthy. Some of them are not so healthy. They're not so productive. They don't help us improve personally or relationally or emotionally. And I think we can think of some examples what a bad habit might be. Some of the obvious ones being like, like smoking is not it's not a good habit. There's no real benefits to smoking, right? But people kind of get into that, and then there's addictive quality to that as well with the nicotine. Drinking falls into the same category. Sometimes people get into other more social things, like a bad habit of gossiping or just kind of general negativity towards other people. So I'm just kind of starting the ball rolling here. What do you guys think of? What do you consider to be bad habits?
Yeah, I guess I think of habits, and it's something that's happens on a regular basis, and some habits are conscious, some might be a bit subconscious. But for me, I think of bad habits when it comes to, oh boy, maybe not for me personally, but it could just be certain eating habits or obviously the things like you said, smoking, but I might be habitually late or habitually not get enough exercise, or I don't know if that would be considered that, what you guys would think, but
like the lack of exercise being a bad habit.
I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
I think why not? I think so.
Okay, and this is an interesting question, I think, because as mental health experts here, it starts to get into areas of like impulse control and like what might be sort of self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
Different areas that might be punitive, maybe something that you're doing to yourself you're not even maybe aware of that's bad for you, but you always keep going for the wrong relationship or something like that, right? Maybe even unconscious on that level.
For sure. I think, let me know if I'm freezing a bit because my feed's cutting out a bit, but I think often we set out to have healthy habits in regard to sleep and nutrition and exercise and connection and work and whatnot. And sometimes things don't play out the way that we want them to, right? So things kind of get in our way in regard to that. So I think, if you look at, the definition of well-being or wellness, if something is impeding on that, then, that bad habit that we've developed.
I think you cut out a little bit, but I think we got an idea.
Can you repeat that last sentence, Chris?
I'm just saying if something impedes on our intention of maintaining healthy wellness, or I'm not sure what I said. If something impedes in our goal of having a healthy, balanced routine, then it might stem from a unhealthy habit.
Okay. Brooke, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. My first thought actually went to, when does an unhealthy habit become sabotage or addiction?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently I'm big with defining what different things are, because that seems to be my topic default too. So when is an unhealthy habit actually addiction or sabotage? But I think habits are behaviors or routines or structures that we end up getting into that are automatic or mindless routines that we get into. So it might be an unhealthy habit to have a snack while you're watching Netflix at nighttime. Or maybe it's a habit being on social media during certain times and it's not really providing you anything. So we're not even paying attention to, are we enjoying this activity? Is it providing us purpose or meaning? Is it providing us joy? We're just doing it for the sake of doing it in an automatic way without paying attention to if it's benefiting us or not. And often I think in that part, it's probably not benefiting us. Some of these things might be harming us, but some other things maybe are just not contributing to a greater good in any way.
I have a little illustration of this, which is kind of fun. We will watch movies together as a family a lot of times, and we usually have popcorn with our movies, right? And my youngest son is he's a big creature of habit, right? He really likes his routines, like in many different ways. Like where we sit at the dinner table, he kind of wants us all to sit in the same place, and little things like if this, then that. It kind of has to be that way. And the other night, talking with my kids and saying, "Hey guys, let's watch a movie tonight." And he said, "Oh, we can't watch a movie." I said, "Well, why not?" I said, "Well, because we don't have any popcorn, right?" It's like it's when it gets to that point where it's like if you can only have this with that, then you know that habit has a lot of power. It has a lot of control over you. And I'm not pathologizing my kid. I mean, he just kind of associates popcorn with movies. It's like those two have to go together. But if you get to a place where you are constantly, whenever you feel sad, you have to have a drink, then I think that becomes problematic, right? If you feel like, oh, I'm stressed out, so therefore I need to smoke some pot or something like that, then we know that it's a habit that is maybe clouding a deeper issue or helping to avoid a deeper issue.
So if it's and then it's helping yourself recognize, okay, am I doing this to relieve something? Or even when people might shop to relieve stress, or
sure.
or go to smoking or eating junk food or fast food, that's more usually bad habits probably, or the biting of the fingernails. Like there's almost something underlying.
There we go. Biting of the fingernails is a great example. Sure. And that's a very unconscious thing for many people as well. Like they're just they mindlessly are chewing their fingernails and they realize it later. Oh, wow, I'm down to I'm bleeding or something, right?
Yeah.
And that's a habit that is, you kind of have to look at what's the fruit of this habit? Is it actually productive or not? Some people will have the habit, when I'm stressed out, I go for a walk, or I call up a friend or something like that. That's a pretty good habit to have, I would imagine.
Or like cleaning. Some people might consider that
There you go.
I'm wondering though, like at that point, are we jumping into a little Adlerian territory of purpose behind behavior? So if
Adlerian, let's just pause for a second. Albert Adler? Alfred, sorry. I always put those together. Alfred Adler.
Yeah. Alfred
Adler, a psychologist that basically invented everything. So Adler, things associated with Adlerian. So what is the Adlerian concept we're talking about here, Brooke?
Yeah, so it's purpose. So Adler was a big fan of what is the purpose behind the behavior. And so I'm just, and Ryan, like we're talking a little bit about that right now for habits. But if we were to look at nail biting or smoking or whatever we're deeming as a negative, because we're looking at, well, is this a purpose for you? Chances are there is a purpose, even for the negative habit. And it's probably a positive purpose. So it's reducing anxiety or distraction, or like there's always a purpose to the behavior. It's serving a function, and we want to take a look at that. So sometimes if a habit is forming that's self-destructive, nail biting or cutting or eating disordered behavior or addictions or obsessive exercise or whatever it might be, it's probably alleviating or distracting from negative emotion.
That is true. That's something I talk with my clients about all the time, especially ones who are dealing with like drinking issues, right? Because drinking, alcohol is probably the number one anxiety medication. And the fact of the matter is it works, at least temporarily, right? It will alleviate some anxiety.
I would say up here it's marijuana.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So whatever the drug is, alleviates the anxiety, and it functions. It works. It's functional until it's not there anymore, or until you become dependent on it and have to rely on it for in order to manage. That becomes your coping skill, right?
Yeah, it can ultimately, it can maybe release some dopamine and help take the edge off, but it's doing some bad things, other things to the body, right? That can have some long-term consequences, even short-term consequences. Like alcohol may take the edge off in the moment, but it obviously depletes the body of nutrients and makes you feel pretty crummy the next day. So, but
So
yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say, so kind of break it down a bit, a habit. We almost have this craving. Would there be a craving, an urge, and then we get a reward from what we do with some of these habits? Like smoking might give you that reward. Having alcohol might give you that. You might have that craving. I need to, like, it almost becomes this, you almost crave something. Would you say that? Like something you do regularly or a habit? It's, if you don't do it, then you miss it and you might have that craving to do that thing.
Yeah. I think in a lot of circumstances, I think you can make that case. I think in some other ones, maybe not. Maybe sometimes you're just avoiding certain tasks because you want to avoid the discomfort of doing that task, but it's creating a lot of issues for you.
Right.
Yes.
And sometimes I think habits genuinely, like we're talking about negative habits right now, but I think habits, if we were to look at why they were formed in the first place, it's to take pressure off your brain. Like we have so much to think about all the time. Our brain is taking in all the information from our environment and our surroundings, all of the information up from every nerve ending in our body, and it's trying to make sense of it all. That's a lot for it to do. Plus it's running our body, you know, our heart and our lungs and our oxygen and what. So when we create a habit that we're comfortable with, let's go with putting your socks on.
Or like getting dressed for the day, washing, brushing your teeth.
Brushing your teeth, having a shower. When you have a shower, you probably wash in the same order. When you're doing the dishes, you probably have a habit of how you load or unload the dishwasher. When that behavior becomes habitual, your brain doesn't have to use as much energy to follow that behavior. So it kind of frees it up. So the formation of habits is very functional. We want them. We don't want to get rid of habits.
It's an implicit mind, right? The implicit mind is crazy powerful.
You might have a habit of driving the same way to work, right? It's just less to think about.
I use with my clients the example of learning to drive, right? No one is born with an instinctual ability to drive a car, but you have to drill that stuff in. And remember, when you first drove a car, you had to like make sure the radio was off and no one was talking and there's no distractions, and you were being very intentional about thinking about, okay, turn signal, you know, steering wheel, everything that had to be very intentional. As you start to habituate to that, after a while, you feel more comfortable with it, and then pretty soon you got the radio on, you're eating a hamburger, you're talking with somebody, you're texting. Don't text when you're driving. But, you know, people do that stuff. We are able to adapt that stuff, and it becomes second nature, right? So we got to get to the next part, though, which is if you have some bad habits, is it possible to change them, and how do we go about that?
Neuroplasticity.
Wow, that's a big word. What does that mean?
Brains can change. New pathways can be built.
They can? How in the world? Some people would say no. Once, you know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You know, how can someone actually come out of a rut and learn something new?
Maybe we should ask Adler. I'm joking.
Oh boy, Adler has more answers.
He's up right now. Should we give him a call? Yeah, it's a profound message of hope that we can change his pathways. For the longest time within psychology and psychiatry, we didn't think that was the case, right? We thought that the patterns you're born with, or the patterns we die with, or after a certain age, or your brain is developed and nothing's going to change after that. But it's just not true, right?
Okay, so how do we go about that? If brains can change and habits can change, is there something we can do to make that happen?
Yep, diligent and intentional effort.
Being aware of these habits, first off, it's most simple.
Yeah, what Joanna was saying there, and be aware of what are good versus what are maybe unhealthy habits and patterns, right? So
Okay. And is there kind of a general idea of how we might evaluate that, right? Like let's say I'm someone who I go to the gym 12 times a week, right? I mean, I go a couple times a day on some days, but at least every day, and I'm there, and I'm in fantastic shape, and I'm feeling great, right?
More than me this year. Good job,
Well, no, this is not really me. This is an example, right? It's definitely not me. But let's say that I were that sort of a person, and I have some people there, maybe the other people at the gym, and they'll start saying, "Wow, man, you're doing great. Keep it up. You're doing wonderful," right? So I might have some folks telling me that this is a great habit to have. I'm working out all the time. So when would I know? How might I draw the line? And that might say, this is not such a great habit, Or let's say I have 3 glasses of gin every night, and I'm fine. I can still function. I can go to work, How do I tell the difference between a good habit and a bad habit? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. A few ideas. One would be if it starts to impact the key aspects of your life, so your physical well-being, your mental health, your ability to work, focus your mind at work, then that might become an issue. But I guess what you mentioned, Ryan, is sometimes people are functioning, right? They have these maybe unhealthy habits, but they still have that balance in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, science is good for that. I think there's a lot of research being done every day. So curiosity in terms of what is healthy and what isn't. So a bit of a growth mindset. And the last thought is ask someone close to you. Any feedback for you, right?
Yeah.
And want that feedback. I remember we all know Scott Miller. He's a well-known psychologist, and he really emphasizes the importance of feedback, right, within a counseling setting. And a psychologist who he knows, I guess, really asks clients, can you give me some feedback in terms of what, is there something I'm doing that you don't like? And the client's like, yeah, I don't think you make this facial expression that I don't really like. She's like, really? She's like, yeah. And so she was completely shocked by that, and looking in the mirror and trying to figure out what the client was talking about. Then her husband came home later on that day, and she explained the scenario to him, and his reaction was, "Oh, I hate that facial expression."
Ah.
So it was actually something perhaps that she was doing, which was, I think, was maybe working against her ability to having, obviously impacting her therapeutic alliance there. But the fact she was so open to feedback led to that opportunity for growth, right?
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Yes. Be open to feedback. So maybe asking friends and family, like, hey, do you think that my working out is excessive? Do you think that I'm doing a little too much in this area? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So that's good. That's a good start. So let's say you determine that you are drinking too much, smoking too much, working out too much, volunteering too much. I don't know if that's possible, but you're doing too much of something. It's a habit that seems to be excessive. How can we talked about awareness, right? So becoming aware of the fact that you might be doing that. And there are a lot of people who are aware. They'll come into therapy and say, hey, look, I know I blank too much. I know I gossip too much. I drink too much. Whatever it might be. So how do we actually get them from that point to making a behavior change?
I think that's a loaded question with many answers, because it would be tailored to what is somewhat going on. Like, yes, there's a process to change, and we can go through that, and there's probably some steps, but specific things are going to be different for the individual, and depending on what level, how drastic the change needs to be immediately,
Yep.
but some general stuff is setting the intention or setting a goal.
Yep.
And then coming up with ways to help yourself achieve that goal. So if you want to drink less, maybe you're not completely abstaining, maybe you want to just drink less, then hey, there's behavioral things that you can do, like not having alcohol in the house or making it more difficult to access that alcohol, or being accountable, letting your partner know your goal and asking them to be supportive so that you're only having that amount, or that they don't drink with you, replacing where the alcohol would normally be with something else. So like interrupting, because again, at some point, a habit is going to feel so automatic that we're trying to interrupt the process that would normally happen.
Yeah.
So any hiccup or interruption that you could provide for yourself is going to be helpful to remind you of your goal, which will then hopefully lead to, right, okay, I'm going to try not to have this beer. I'm going to go and have a water instead.
Yes. There we go.
So reminding yourself of the intention. Now that's a very simplistic way for more easier things, but that could be a start.
There we go. Yes, a couple little thoughts here. One, I had the pleasure of interviewing a guy by the name of Charles Duhigg a couple of years ago, who wrote a book called The Power of Habit. And his he's a journalist. He's not a therapist, but he talked to a lot of therapists and a lot of people who were all into this, and talked about how there's certainly a moment where there's sort of a trigger, right? Like, and that might be an area of the house, like that's where I keep my alcohol, or it might be a time of day, or it might be a feeling that comes up, something that kind of gets you triggered to go towards your standard habit, right? And the idea of habit change is about realizing or figuring out what it is that your habit is trying to cure, right? Like you were talking about earlier, Brooke. Like, what is it trying to solve? What problem is it trying to solve? And is there another way to solve that? So if I'm anxious and I typically go to something, shopping or pornography or whatever it might be to try to relieve my anxiety, what else can I replace? What else can I put there in that place in order to relieve that same anxiety, right? Maybe it's a meditation app. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's something else or vigorous exercise, something else that will replace that. And then there's, if it's in the place of the house, like you talked about, Brooke, like you put something there that might be a healthier alternative to that, right? Just so that it's something that might create an extra step or a barrier between you and that thing that typically trips you up.
Yeah, because there is a term for this as well. It's called energy activation. And so essentially we want to activate energy towards the behavior, the desired behavior. So I know right now we're talking a lot about how to stop negative habits, but part of this is also how do we start positive habits?
Right.
Let's say you want to come home from work and your habit is you plunk down on the couch and you watch TV.
Right.
So, and instead you want to go for a walk. So what we want to do is make it harder to watch TV and make it easier to go for a walk. So what can we do for energy activation? The whole theory is like, what's going to be the least amount of energy choice? So if I take the remote and take the batteries out and put the remote somewhere and put the batteries somewhere else, and instead, maybe you do this the night before, and you put your runners right at the coffee table, your sneakers, your sporting shoes, I don't know what Americans call them. And
it's our tuque, actually. We call it tuque. Just kidding.
Just checking. I don't know. So then you put your shoes there. And so when you come home, you sit on the couch. And now you have two choices. You can either like get up, walk across the room, find the batteries, go get the remote, put batteries in the remote, go back to the couch. So there's so many steps. Or you can put your shoes on and go for a walk.
There you go.
More likely to go for a walk because it's going to take less energy for you to put your shoes on.
That's it. That's it. I actually, in the last few months, that's been one of my things. Although it's running in the morning. So my thing is I'll go to sleep and I'll wear my running shorts and my running shirt when I go to sleep. And then right in front of my bed are my shoes and my socks and the little thing that holds my phone on my arm, like I'm all ready to go. So it's like I have no excuse at that point. Okay, just go.
Yeah.
There's another thing I use with clients too when it comes to trying to start a healthy habit, which I just call the 5-minute rule, right? Which I just tell them, because a lot of times for people doing this whole thing, like going for a workout or writing in a journal or doing meditation or something like that feels overwhelming. Like to do that for an hour or whatever that might be feels overwhelming. So I say, we can do anything for 5 minutes. So how about you tell yourself you're just going to do this for 5 minutes. You're just going to go outside and you're going to walk for 5 minutes. You're going to jog or you're going to journal or meditate or crochet or whatever you do for 5 minutes. And most of the time when people kind of have that in their mind, they get through that 5 minutes and they're like, look, I'm already going. I might as well keep going. Like it doesn't seem so overwhelming. It's the starting that seems to be the problem, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's, I'm highlighting some stuff that's already been said, but accountability partner can be so beneficial.
Yeah.
I also think like chance favors the prepared mind. So trying to, as vividly as you can, envision the new habit that you want to create the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Detail and the more focus will actually increase the probability of you actually following through with that new habit. I also like to pair the new habit with something I'm already doing that day. So that's kind of, I think Brooke mentioned when you come home from work and what you do is you put those shoes on next, right?
Yep.
Help.
You could have little reminders in your phone for things or have little post-its up for different, depending what it is, or you want to work on building a better habit for getting things done time management wise, help yourself with a schedule or
Totally.
Write it down. Yeah. Write it down for sure. Rewards, having if you're able to accomplish the task and then reward yourself in a positive way,
And realistic.
Realistic,
yeah.
Realistic goals. And
Also making sure your goals are realistic, right? So that you can build confidence and self-esteem as you move forward.
Little victories and successes.
I also heard a researcher encouraged participants to use your opposite hand for doing things. So if you're left-handed, use your right hand to do because it kind of creates a bit of a space there where you're more aware of the patterns that you already have and the habits that you already have.
Really?
Interesting.
So creating a bit of interruption, yeah.
So I know we're really short on time. I'm just going to share a random story about habits because we all have these mindless habits of putting like milk into cereal, but then I was having one of those random days. So it wasn't milk, it was soup. And I grabbed a plate instead of a bowl and I poured my soup on a plate.
Oh, wow.
Good for you.
Really like grabbed the things and anyways, it was a hot mess day. I just wasn't fully aware. Habits are everywhere, everyone.
They are everywhere. In fact, we are very happy that some of you are in the habit of listening to the Mental Health Bootcamp podcast. We would like for you to help other people get into that habit as well. So please tell some friends or family about the Mental Health Bootcamp podcast. It's easy to find us on Apple, Google, Podbean, or YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube, actually. Please send your questions or comments to info@mentalhealthbootcamp.com. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram. Tell friends, and wishing everyone a happy Canadian Thanksgiving. And wear your toques, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.